Hi guys, welcome to another LivinginSAtv video. David and Kuleko and Brian here guys, and today we are going to meet Brian Green, which is the original developer of Victoria Yards and 44 Stanley Street, as one of the founders of the Johannesburg Rejuvenation Project and one of the main faces. And again guys, we want to make sure that you guys are going to know Brian's work right here on the channel guys, and again, stay tuned and make sure you subscribe.
So this is Victoria Yards. The first time I came here, the area was very messy, and I came with a colleague, and as we drove down this road, I saw these beautiful gables down the left-hand side here, and these incredible old air coolers on the roof. And immediately I kind of resonated with the buildings, with what was going on. But it was in a very sorry state. All of these windows had been bricked up. The pavements were in a mess. There was rubbish everywhere, and that was before we got inside. When we got inside, it was far, far worse. It was really chaotic. There were dogs chained up, living in their own filth. There were chop shops everywhere, informal workshops, and panel beaters. And we kind of, as we went onto the site, I didn't realize it was as big as it was, but it turned out to be, the first portion was 20,000 square meters, and it was in a real state of disarray and dereliction. But it was trading, and it was trading kind of with all of these informal, irregular, and I would think in some cases illegal businesses. But when I kind of crossed over this threshold, actually, this is where I crossed over, and into this crazy mess. There were places were sectioned off, like this was a huge chop shop, as I said, with a corrugated iron fence down there that had just been crudely dug into the soil, and this fantastic Nigerian guy here who had a business called, his name was Japan, I forget the name of his company, and he had this crazy way of speaking. He used to shout at you kind of from here. And anyway, so I looked at this, I looked at the roadways, I looked at the buildings, and immediately I thought, okay, there's no way that I can do anything here without engaging with the population that surrounds us. The second thing was that the people in the area were not well off by any stretch of the imagination. The history of the area you need to know to kind of understand a little bit, but this area had been left by the owners of the properties, and they had moved out of the area, and there was the kind of African diaspora came into this area, and these landlords that no longer occupied their homes rented them out to this African diaspora. The whole area crashed and went down, and this started crashing desperately as a result of that. And by the time I picked it up in 2017, it was in a sorry state. And as I said, the residents were like they just didn't have cash. So I thought food security would be a very important element of this, and hence you see the gardens that we've planted. Everything, just about everything, is edible, from nut trees to herbs to beautiful vegetables. And then these wonderful buildings that weren't wonderful then, but they lent themselves incredibly to artist studios, to workshops, to artisanal, so a new kind of artisanal set that was far more on the creative side. So it wasn't that we were trying to get plumbers and welders in here. We were trying to get kind of artists and carpenters and people that had some kind of creative skill. And then, and I've mentioned it before, but the most important element, I think, was the fact that because of the scale of the property, the 20,000, and that later became 30,000 square meters, the only way that we could ultimately survive as a business is if we we interacted with the community in very meaningful ways. So they benefited from us being here, but we benefited hugely from them being here. And those were the three pillars of what this place was all about. So it was food security, artisanal studios and workshops, and the third thing was how do we engage with the community and turn it into something that was going to be a vital little hub in Johannesburg. And I think what we've managed to achieve is very, very close to that in many respects. In fact, we've picked up some international awards for sustainability and for what has happened here at Victoria Yards. The whole financial kind of element was slightly different to the, get in, make money, and stay in or get out. We thought and we believed that this was going to be a much slower burn. We were going to, excuse me, we were going to develop things slowly. The rentals that we could achieve here were much lower than, let's go across the way, I'll show you the other side of the property, the extra 10,000 square meters we plugged on. So so regular businesses, they've got like a 5-year plan to get the cash back or whatever. We had to go with doing something out the box, something new. And all we wanted to achieve, of course I want to make money and I want to make lots of it, but this project, because of how cheap the buildings were and how cheap it was at the time to fix. It's no longer that cheap to fix these buildings, by the way. The per square meter costs have gone up exponentially, but we still managed to cover costs and put a little bit of cash back into developing the place. So it's going to take a long time to see any real financial reward from these buildings. But I think what we will have done while we're doing it is that we would have brought a lovely portion of the community along for the ride with us and support. And I think that's, I know it sounds a bit kind of, it doesn't sound too commercial. But let's go up this way. It doesn't sound too commercial, but and a kind of a lot of, our whole business is banks control how we do business, and we have to give them what they need and want. I think the banks they didn't quite understand the model. I don't think I even understood the model that closely, but we have very slowly, we've stayed in business. We got through COVID. We're making small amounts of money. Some of the shareholders aren't too happy, or at least one of them is not too happy. The others are very happy because we've managed to do something that is very unusual, very ultimately sustainable, because the community has been brought along for the experience and the ride. So I think, I'm very happy with it. As I said, I'd love to be making more cash out of it. But I think in time, this place it'll prove that this is a potential way of doing business in the long term. So there are no short-term rewards, medium-term rewards. We're 7 years in, we've made some money, but it's all gone back into the development of the property. And we've been in a very lucky position to do this because all of us have other businesses. All the shareholders have other businesses that sustain them. So we've moved over, when we crossed the Joburg River, to the new 10,000 square meters, which is the Freer Road component. And here we started developing it because we've actually finished the development on the other side of the river. And we are hoping that the returns that we make on this side, so that side's the bread and butter, and this side will hopefully be some of the cash that we've made. So initially we bought the property for 18 million rand, about 1,000 rand a square meter on the other side. So initially we bought the buildings for 1,000 rand a square meter, and then we managed to buy this side of the river as well for 1,000 rand a square meter. Now, if you know the Johannesburg property market, and where we are, you're not really getting much more than that for a square meter at the moment. But you're still getting a rental income, and we are hoping with the government of national unity that we've just inherited, that people start taking Joburg seriously again, and they start investing more cash and more effort and more energy into what, at the turn of last century was the most extraordinary, rapidly growing city. And I think that people in Joburg, they're miners, they want to make money. We just have to get rid of the corruption, which it seems that is happening in many respects. It still goes on. But, we have to believe. If we don't believe, we should leave. And I believe that Joburg's got a fantastic future. I think that it's got more potential than a lot of cities because it's got that beautiful Afrikaans word, gees. Joburg's got balls. It's got like real potential to do stuff. We just have to create the pathways, the pathway, the uncorrupt kind of way forward, and we should be good. I'm praying anyway. Yeah, and and if you look at what we've done here, this is a brand new build. We've built it with integrity. We've used our old window frames where we can manage to harvest them. We use and I build with I use stuff that is going to last forever. Like I use galvanized pipes and surface-mounted galvanized pipes in all of the buildings. We use very raw finishes like Nutec board, because rhino board will get wet and disintegrate. So I'm looking to build stuff that's going to last forever. This is going to be a very beautiful courtyard with a pond. There will be a gateway into a new garage, and you'll come out onto this deck, and you've got this wonderful opportunity looking north. These will be more studios over here, and it's just the most incredible thing waiting to explode. It has exploded in many ways. We've won the best market, one of the best markets in the world, which I can't believe because I'm a bit fussy, but apparently we've managed to achieve that. We've managed to achieve this other award. We keep getting mentioned, and it's wonderful. We just need to now see the cash, that all converting into cash, so that people can benefit from the cash, and we can start seeing the neighborhood kind of slowly. And I don't want it to generate too quickly, because then you get the gentrifiers coming in. You want the people that are living here now to stay here and their lives improve. And that way, this place will sustain forever into the future.
Wow. Thank you so much, Brian, for your time. I think what you've shared with us is quite amazing. And we're just wishing you all the best, on this leg of development. But what you've done on the other side, if anything to go by, I don't have any doubt that you will do an amazing work. But what we've noticed, inside there, I'm talking about the first phase of your development, is the tenants mix. How do you select your tenants? Because there's something amazing there.
Okay, so how we started doing that is that I was very in control of the curated tenancies, and all I wanted was as many different artisanal types as we could possibly get. So glass blowers, carpenters, as I mentioned, artists, printers, silk screeners, coppersmiths, and metal artists, whatever we could. And I think before COVID, we had about 25 different skill sets going in Victoria Yards. And that was very heavily curated. Obviously, COVID came along, and that everyone suffered. Some of those people went bankrupt, and we had to adapt to the pressures of COVID. And if we hadn't, we would have seen a lot of people go bankrupt. So we let the people that couldn't afford to stay go without real penalty, and we took in a whole lot of new people, and those people were mostly CMT from the clothing manufacturing industries. Yes. And we've got a lot of those now. And the brief to PJ, our trusted right-hand man, is that we always look for diversity in tenancies. And if somebody from the clothing industry is the only one to put in position, then we'll do that. But we're always looking for people, jewelers, craftsmen, whatever we can, to create the interest. Because remember, there's a lot of influx from people from all over the world. It's kind of almost more famous internationally than locally, Victoria Yards. And we get inundated with foreign tourists. And the more interesting the spectrum of tenants is for the people visiting, the better we are seen from the outside. So, let's just keep pushing for better tenants and always try and upgrade and never rest on your laurels.
Brian, if I'm looking at your development, the first phase is on the other side of the SKE River, and the second phase is on the other side of the SKE River. The significance of this river, I know you've been around, you've done your research. Can you kindly educate us and our community? Okay,
so the Yixkay River, it's the source of the Yixkay River is just slightly north of us, and this is one of the it's the only registered river in Johannesburg. It doesn't look like much of a river, it looks more like a drain, but we've had this extraordinary Romy Stander and her teams and her volunteers, engineers, agronomists, etc., working on re-establishing the banks of the river. The banks are all filled with indigenous grasses and trees. The palm tree isn't indigenous. We've even had this bridge in front of us is quite a testament. It's called the Feral Commons by E.O. McCundle. It's part of 3 exhibitions going on, one in Jamaica, one in the Middle East in Dubai, and one here. And it really talks to refurbishment, recycling, and looking after the environment. So it's kind of we were blessed by getting this, and we were blessed further with the people taking interest in the river as they have. One of the things that we've been offered is a 15,000 rand a month device that can filter all the water that's coming, and the water that will leave that device going towards Shai in Mozambique would be clean.
Wow.
Clean water, for not potable but clean. But we can't afford it. So if the public are out there wanting to donate 15 grand a month to put a machine into this river to clean the water up, be my guest.
I think we've got a very interesting community members. I'm sure there's someone who's gonna pop out, but I think for me, the reason why I said let us engage on the significance of the river, I think it talks to your philosophy. I recall earlier on you've mentioned that when you came in, it was important that you don't just chuck everybody out, but you coexist within the community. The importance of co-creating with those that have been around. Biodiversity is such an important topic as well that we need to take care of, because sometimes big investors, they often get accused of only just taking care of the bottom line without actually taking care of nature. So is that the philosophy that you employ in every development that you're involved in?
Well, believe me, we are, I'm not the finance guy, and I'm not really a hard-nosed businessman, really. My partners are, and they always watch the bottom line. And believe me, if this was a failure, we would have closed it down.
Yes.
It's not a failure. It's working in a very limited way, and they believe in the philosophy of what we are trying to achieve here. And I think that we've accomplished fantastic things. They're massively supportive, and I think we're all very proud of what's actually kind of turned out here.
Wow.
I'm not sure if I'm answering the question as you are.
No, you are. What I love about it, it definitely shows that you're not a numbers guy, which I love that. You are you've got a sense of community, in you, and I can imagine those meetings with the other members or the other investors. They sometimes find it quite difficult actually to get to your level of thinking, because sometimes it's not about just the bottom line.
Yeah, we're going to a shareholders meeting tomorrow to expressly discuss what the future holds for Victoria Yards and where we're gonna go with this. And one of the shareholders is not at all happy with the fact that we haven't really made dividends out of it. But as I mentioned, a lot of them are, and they can see the bigger picture. They can see that it's a long-term deal, and I think that's very, very important. If everyone just came into a business, and we've done a lot of good here. There's schools, there's music schools, there's weekend schools for kids, there's a clinic, there's a fully paid for clinic. So some of these are sponsored, some of these are, we charge the school half. The clinic is donated by Nando's, or the rental for the clinic. And so there are these satellites of absolute goodwill and community upliftment in and amongst regular businesses. And I think that the mix on a 30,000 square meter site with about 20,000 square meters of gross lettable area, if we are involved in 1,000 square meters of charitable rentals, it's a lot.
No, that's beautiful. By the way, guys, what Brian is mentioning in terms of the tenants that they have, the community that they have, because we love the ecosystem here. We're still going to show you guys, we'll do another video where we actually take you through on the tour, on a proper tour, where we engage actually with these tenants that, Brian, is talking about. But Brian, looking at the time, what's the future plans? I know you spoke about, developing, the other side, but now that this is entrenched, what is the future of the way, as a visionary, you look at, Victoria Yards?
Well, I'd like to see Freer Road develop to its full potential like this. It'll give us more critical mass in the area, in the neighborhood. And once we've created a very stable and solid base, hopefully it has already started flowing outwards and incorporating the neighborhood in many ways. We've got lots of alliances with lots of people, lots of communities. We've got the People's Pantry. They feed a lot of destitute people. So I just think that it's like a mother. This is like a mother to the neighborhood.
Yes.
And the neighborhood sees this as a mother.
Yes.
And I think it's a very calming and peaceful thing to have a sizable business in the neighborhood that is focused on the neighborhood. As I say, it's not to say that we don't have regular businesses here. We do. Without them, we wouldn't sustain. But it's those core businesses that, the Makers Valley.
Yes.
The clinic, the school, the weekend school, the music school, all of those things are purely for the good of the community.
Wow.
So there we go.
No, that's amazing. As we conclude here, what message can you give to other crazy people like you? Because we often get confronted by the notion that says Johannesburg is dead, it's gone. So and we always talk about the fact that we can't let Johannesburg go down the drain. It's very significant. So what can you say to those that actually are looking at investing, in the city? Because you already started the work. You didn't wait for things to be perfect before actually you put, your money in, you and your partners. But what message can you actually drive out there?
Well, I think that this time in our history is such a critical and crucial time. We have this government of national unity. It's the first government we've had after Mandela with real hope. And, this is the time, guys. If you're going to buy cheap property, you're going to invest in cheap property, God, there's no better time to do it than now. And there's a lot of action. There's a lot of stuff happening downtown. Josie, my Josie. There's, Anglo-American have been instrumental in getting things going. Of course, Robbie Brosen and these are the people with fire in their bellies that actually want to and need to see this town turn around. It's possible. You drive around vast tracts of this town that are in absolute shipshape. We just need to join a few more dots, make a few more places reasonable, clean some places up, get rid of the big bloody potholes, get rid of the filth, and carry on just driving and just believing. There are a lot of naysayers. Screw the naysayers. Let's really just get this place, guys, just pick it up and let's run with it. Just go and buy a property, get some ideas, speak to people, and let's see what we can do. I'm very excited about downtown Johannesburg at the moment. I was absolutely gobsmacked at how clean it was. I was absolutely gobsmacked at how clean it was from Wits University all the way through to 44 Main Street and Hollard Street. It's immaculate. I couldn't believe it. But then, you do go to the troubled areas behind Ponty and stuff where it's an absolute, it's a rubbish bin. But there's huge amounts. I think we kind of entering Guinness Book of Record stakes with volunteers cleaning up Hillbrow. Where does this happen in the world? There's something about this town that's got immense and amazing energy. And we've just got to harness that energy. We've got to start making people believe. And the more of us that do it, the easier it becomes.
Wow. No, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate getting the insights because at times I might speak, you know, on behalf of the channel, but when you speak to someone actually who's done it, because it's not easy. I'm sure you've got bruises all over your body, scars in your brain, you know, what you went through, you know, in the space. Thank you so much, guys. But I'm so happy that we have someone like you who's willing to share, because I think you've shared quite a number of, you know, of insights in terms of, you know, how one can actually develop Johannesburg. So guys, please let's develop Josie. Let's revive Johannesburg. Brian has done it with his partners. We need more. Remember, Johannesburg, it will take to rebuild Johannesburg, it will take all of us. We are doing our part as LivinginSAtv to showcase people like Brian who've made it. They are not saying it's easy, but they've been able to do it in spite of all the challenges that they have. I think, guys, we need all hands on deck. We can't let this city fall. Living in SA, we are on. Thank you so much, Mike. Brian.